the Supreme Court ruled in favor of Massachusetts to try to force the EPA to include greenhouse gas, I guess, as a pollutant.
Correct.
We're not recognizing, but I guess the EPA decided to not conform to the Supreme Court ruling on that or something.
There's something like that. But the courts basically said, yeah, treat it as a pollutant. And that, frankly, is the basis for everything else, because once it's treated as a pollutant, you've got a mechanism to deal with it. Obviously, in the Bush administration, things work a little funny, but that is a dynamic that's still changing right now.
Right.
Question?
Considering your background in both physical sciences and planning, when you work with your consulting group, what background do you pull on most of in terms of this scientific stuff?
Excellent question.
And when you say the county departments are becoming more scientific, and the consultants are more policymakers, how is that going to change as these issues of water policy, climate change, and now even food become an issue in the future?
That's a great question. I should hire you right now for asking that
I'm
question.
available.
Well,
I
no.
want to go back home.
Here's where do you live? Where are you from?
San Francisco.
Oh, okay. Oh, well, there you go. Well, give him my information. Anyway, here's the deal.
Well, my wife wants me to go back.
Well, I'll tell you what. Here's what I say. When I'm hiring people, their background, to me, is not the driving force in why I hire them. It's whether they can write, it's whether they can analyze and critically think, and put that in paper and do an analysis of anything. You know, when I ask for a writing sample, I'll ask for, show me something that you did that showed analysis. I mean, it could be about, you know, what's in their backyard or something like that. And that's fine, because what you need are people to be able to think on the fly. Now, what are their, in practical terms, what are their backgrounds? Geography, political science, economics, English. You have some biologists, you have some paleontologists we have. But frankly, when you have people from a scientific background trying to fit into a consulting field, of true, I want to do it scientifically right, what you end up is they have a hard time often. Because in the end you have, you know, it works like schools. You've got deadlines, you've got budgets, and you got to do it by a certain day, and it's got to be done. So you got to take what you know, distill it down, get it where you think it ought to be, and then be able to communicate that well to whoever you need to communicate it, and work with them to fix it later. Frankly, that's how it kind of works. So you need people with sort of that good, sort of liberal arts kind of feel to things, but with a good feel for analysis, which is a scientific background. That's why geographers are so good. That's my plug for geography. But yeah, the backgrounds are diverse.
Lots of jobs for planners in California.
I would say, yeah, there are lots of jobs in California for planners. You know,
How many help you type? If you're getting all that request, come and help us.
Yeah, well, I tell you what, you know, the regulatory world of California makes for a lot of jobs, frankly, for better or worse. But there's, you know, cities and counties are hiring. No, let's put it this way: they're short-staffed in a big way because of all the things they now have to do. The budget isn't necessarily there for them to hire, and so who benefits by that? Consultants, because they can hire consultants sometimes cheaper because they only need them for certain assignments, and then they go away. They don't have to pay them benefits. So you do have a growing population of consultants, and the whole world of environmental consultants in California, I'm going to guess there's probably, I don't know, 2,000 people in the industry statewide that do what I do. It's not a huge number of people, but if you have a background like you guys do, and any kind of head on your shoulders, jobs are available. Let's put it that way.
We're right out of time. Actually, I want to ask the last question.
I guess you have that, yeah.
Coming from the science.
Considering I had to share a room with them
That's
for
right.
age 4.
Right. Coming from the science side, he's the policy guy. Let me ask this. I mean, there's a collision between science and policy. There's always has been. And it's a healthy thing. But in this issue of climate change and regulating CO2 and how to do that and why to do that, what the goal is. And like Hong Bing said, it's a global problem.
Yeah.
And policy on the local issue, it's important, but I mean, if California doesn't, the whole world, the rest of the world doesn't, what difference does it make? Do you think we're ahead of the game a little bit? I mean, is the public and industry and government ready to do, I mean, they're kind of doing it maybe for other reasons, like
Right.
you alluded to. Could this backfire? Like if we go down this road and, you know, people are inconvenienced and this regulatory process starts that kind of gets out of control, could there be a backlash and people say, listen, this is not working. It's not worth regulating CO2. It's not going to make a difference anyway. Or are people thinking about that?
Great question. I would have expected nothing less. Could there be a backlash? Absolutely, there could be a backlash. I mean, look at it historically. When you've had science and policy clashing, the idea of, for example, do we give land away in the West in the 1860s in 160-acre plots to people? Just let them figure it out. Did that work? Not really. Was the railroad a good idea? Maybe, it had its ups and downs. Was the idea of subsidizing and creating an interstate highway system a good idea? It created something big. Is it what was intended? Which was kind of a military and economic, not what we intended exactly, but is it where we are today, and did it do something good? It did a lot of other things good that we didn't even know about. Policy and science, those aren't really scientific examples, but the idea being a science idea is often behind something. The internal combustion engine, or, oh wow. It always ends up being co-opted by industry in a way they want to do it. And that'll be true of this. And it's going to be true in California, and it's going to become the big thing to do, and suddenly it's going to become this national thing, and then America will be on top of everything. You know, even though Denmark or Canada or others are already on top of things, and we're getting there. And then globally, others are already thinking in other forms. I mean, it's not like this, I'm talking from one perspective. There's 1,000 other people could say different things. And it's going to converge into something that'll become Star Trek. You know, that's kind of the idea. But will it get there in a way for the right reasons? You know, if you followed a scientific approach, you'd be sitting there going studying and studying and proving, and you can't get there, you can never prove, and you never get anywhere. So you just got to jump on something and go. That's the idea. So yeah, that's the difference. That's why you're doing that, and I'm done.
That's why he's making money. We got to wrap it up here. Listen, we're gonna go to Hams at about 5 o'clock. If anybody would like to join us and talk about this stuff, we'll probably be there in about a half hour. You're all welcome to come.